Here it is. Woo! This critter right here is a point of pride for us in South Texas. This is a Texas indigo snake. This snake was on the state threatened list several years ago, and it's come off of that list since then. It came off during COVID. This is just a juvenile. It has a long life ahead of it. And if it gets big enough, it'll be one of the largest snakes in the United States. Its cousins in Florida are the largest in the United States. They eat rattlesnakes, and if you see them in the right environment, if you scare them a little bit, they have this purplish sheen, like a wet road with oil slick on it, purple sheen, hence the indigo snake. I love snakes. Do you like snakes? Yeah. Would you like to see the snake? Yeah. Not everybody shares the love for snakes. And I know it's a bad idea to scare a theater full of people. There are rules against that. I won't be doing that. But consider the possibility if this snake is not the only one in the room, this dark room. Perhaps something's slithering around in this room that you're not aware of. It's not. I don't want to cause a panic. There's nothing here. But I want to illustrate the point that wildlife can make us uncomfortable sometimes. Are you comfortable with wildlife? Are you comfortable with the outdoors? That's what I want to talk about. This is me at a young age, regular kid, going outside, sometimes having some good encounters with wildlife, sometimes having some not so good encounters with wildlife. Yesterday, this snake bit me on stage while I was practicing, and I was bleeding. I'm going to put her down now. I should mention it's non-venomous. I should have mentioned that from the top. Good experiences, bad experiences with wildlife. But over time, I learned to appreciate wildlife, and the preconceived notions I had about them, those gradually went away. Being a kid led to adulthood, being a journalist, wildlife filmmaker, living here in the Valley for the last 10 years in South Texas. And I want to talk to you about some of those experiences that were stressful and scary for me because they were the first time. The first time I ever encountered a bear was at Big Bend National Park, and I thought, oh my God, a bear. What is going to happen here? All the preconceived notions of what happens with a human-bear encounter came to mind. And the bear I encountered was a mother black bear guarding her cubs. She was looking at me downhill. There was a group of men yelling at me from the bottom of the hill saying, watch out. I thought she was going to come tumbling down the hill to protect her cubs, but she lost interest in me. And I got a little curious, so I started following her to the point where I went up the side of that mountain, and it got steeper, and I thought, how am I going to get down? I grew wiser from that experience, and this experience with the largest fish in the world. It's hard to judge the scale, but this is the whale shark, which is the size of a truck. And I jumped in the water with it off of Yucatan, and I thought I was going to swim with it. So I went in without a life jacket, thinking I was going to dive or something like that. And that whale shark greeted me like this. And in that moment, I thought, well, what if I end up like Jonah, being swallowed up by the whale? That didn't happen, but I learned a very good lesson in swimming and how I'm not prepared for that because I was flapping around in the water, both by being stressed out by this as well as the open ocean, and the fact that the boat that dropped me off already moved out of the way. This is an experience which is near and dear for me. And the challenging experience with this was going out and filming the endangered ocelot, but in an environment in South Texas that is one of the most challenging where you can film. This critter is the size of a house cat, a little bit bigger, and I'm a 6-foot guy, and I'm trying to maneuver in the spaces it loves, in the low-hanging trees that it loves, trying to get to where it likes to spend its time. One time, I had to finish up some tasks because I'm placing cameras where the ocelots live. And the day was getting hot, I think it was in May. So I was in a hurry to get back out there. And I decided I'm going to go out quickly, take a little bit of water. I got super lost, and I was climbing over brush and I was climbing under brush going in the direction I thought I needed to. And at that time, my body did something it never did before that. My heart started racing, and I started panting. And I knew that this was my physical limit, and this is the way, unfortunately, people die here in South Texas every year. I want to tell you that experiences like these are visceral, and they stay in your minds for the rest of your life. At least for me, they are experiences that I will not forget. And I think experiencing both your physical limits as well as experiencing wildlife and coming face to face with wildlife is one of the things that stays in your brain, and it taps into a part of your brain. That's my personal opinion. I think that we're losing a connection with wildlife, and we're losing it gradually. So we don't know that we're losing it. And to illustrate that point, I did a small poll before this speech. I reached out to the Texas Master Naturalists here in the Rio Grande Valley, and I asked them what they used to see back in the day that they don't see as much of anymore. Many of them have been around for at least a couple decades. So one thing that they pointed out, the main one that they pointed out, is the insects. Back in the day, you could drive down the highway, go on a road trip, and when you come back, you have to clean off your windshield. That is no longer the case as often, and that includes the pollinators, the ones that are responsible for our food. Texas horned lizards, people had fond memories of collecting those and taking them back to show their families. It's harder to find one. I spend a lot of time outdoors, and I've never seen one in person. Mountain lions are much harder to see, and so are sea turtles. Many of the sea turtle species, out of the 7 sea turtle species, are either threatened or endangered right now. And something as simple as looking at the stars, super challenging. This was filmed in Big Bend National Park by Fin and Fur Films, which made Deep in the Heart. You can't see that in the Rio Grande Valley. You can't see that in most parts of Texas. You have to go away from the light pollution to see something like that anymore. I want to point out something about the ocelot's bigger brother. This is the jaguar. And the jaguar used to live here in South Texas until not too long ago, several decades ago. One of the last one, if not the last one, here in South Texas was shot in 1948, and it was recorded and chronicled by the Corpus Christi Caller-Times. This video is another example of wildlife that used to inhabit this area. This is the Kemp's Ridley sea turtle at a place called Rancho Nuevo, Tamaulipas. This is what they call an arribada. And at that time, in 1947, a year before that jaguar was shot, they estimated that 40,000 Kemp's Ridley sea turtles were on that beach at the same time. And they were nesting at the same time out of abundance of precaution as a defense strategy. So they could all get on the beach at the same time, and the predators would roll in, and some of the eggs would be lost, obviously, but they would increase their odds of survival. Unfortunately, there's a human factor as well, and so those eggs were over-harvested, and the Kemp's Ridley sea turtle population has gone down significantly since then in 1947, and there are efforts between the US and Mexico, thankfully, to recover that population, which are gradually ongoing. I want to talk about the ocelot and what that experience meant to me, because the ocelot is a species that I spent 4 years here filming in the Rio Grande Valley. I filmed it in Willacy County as part of the production of Deep in the Heart and with Fin and Fur Films. And that is a location 50 miles away that has a species that that's population numbers fewer than 100 here in the United States. We worry that a single hurricane could wipe out the remaining population. And a lot of that is due to the stress that's on that species because they don't have a lot of room to move around. They don't have a lot of habitat left over. This kitten here had a sibling. That sibling was no longer seen during our filming. That mother put a lot of effort into raising that kitten. And it was incredible to watch that kitten grow up. There was a survey done to talk to people about their interest in the outdoors. So I'm talking to you about habitat, and now I want to talk to you about yourselves. People said that they'd be interested in going outside, but they have trouble, they're not satisfied with the options that they have near their homes. There is an opportunity where if we increase the suitable habitat and the recreational options in the area, people may spend more time outside. And that's important because we've developed more lands and we're using more land than we ever have before. people are spending less time outside than they have before. And the rate of chronic illnesses like diabetes and obesity have multiplied over the decades. In South Texas, we say it's too hot to go outside. 6 months out of the year, 8 months out of the year. It's probably too hot today right now, and it's October. Unfortunately, your fears are confirmed that we are one of the hottest places in the country. We're number 2 behind the Sonoran Desert in California and Arizona. When you consider the heat index, that means we're in front of Florida. Florida is a more comfortable place to live out there in Tampa. What can we do about that? Two things we can do is preserve our bodies of water, make sure that we have enough water, and also increase our tree cover. This is an example of what they're doing in Tucson, Arizona, where they have about half of the rainfall that we have. They're channeling the rainwater into the streets so that they can grow more tree cover. And that's allowing for cooler conditions when you're walking down the streets of Tucson. This is what some call the Yellowstone of Texas. Garner State Park, fed by the Frio River. That is a treasure for us Texans. It's a place where you would want to spend a hot June day if you had to pick anywhere. Unfortunately, the Frio River is supplied by an aquifer which is being strained by the hill country cities. But one example is that San Antonio taxpayers decided in favor of taxing themselves to create a fund that would support the aquifer that feeds the region as well as Garner State Park. In Louisiana, they are working to increase the amount of habitat they have as a result of Hurricane Katrina. Hurricane Katrina wiped out land. So they need to rebuild the mangroves. And an effort they have underway is to restore 20 square miles of lands along their coast. And are using the Mississippi River and what's washing down the Mississippi River to create the foundation for those mangroves. These are all examples that I'm trying to pull from this region and other regions that are very hot. Here's another great example from RGV Reef. They have undertaken the task over the last several years of deliberately sinking old vessels. They just sank their 8th vessel, and they also dump concrete in the ocean, which you may think is a bad idea. But they're doing that for a purpose, because the Gulf Coast is so barren. It's kind of like a desert. So when you start fishing, as we've done for decades and decades, it's easy for the fish population to run out. So RGV Reef creates habitat where fish can spawn other fish and improve the conditions of fishing and give people more recreational opportunities. The red-crowned parrot is one of my favorites. You can spot them and they'll probably wake you up if you live in McAllen, Harlingen, or Brownsville. They've woken me up. What I like about red-crowned parrots is that they thrive in urban environments. As long as you give them trees, they're going to do okay. So that feeds into the idea that we can create habitats that are close to home for people that they can enjoy, as well as the wildlife can enjoy. And here in McAllen, they've undertaken for several years an effort to create urban forests. There's an effort underway as well that is very important to me that is going to allow for the ocelot to multiply. Right now, researchers, scientists, zookeepers are working on an effort to breed ocelots at 10 different zoos at Cesar Claiborne Wildlife Research Institute in Kingsville. They are breeding ocelots. It's a long road ahead, but they are starting the process of breeding them. And they hope to take those ocelots into different parts of South Texas, starting in Stark County. And they want to release them on private land. The federal government is forming an agreement with private landowners to allow for the ocelots to be released out there. So that's giving private landowners more of a say in how they can manage their land and cooperate with the federal government to restore a species that everybody can be proud of. My message to you is that we are connected to nature. Sometimes we may lose that connection, and nature may suffer as a result. Some things can't be taken back, but there's still time to restore some actions that we've done. We can improve the conditions of habitat for nature and these animals around us, and we can improve condition of habitat for ourselves as well.